Ridgefield Inland Wetlands Board, IW 24-21, 599 Branchville Road. Second public hearing, September 12th, 2024.
That this is the regularly scheduled meeting of the Town of Ridgefield Inland Wetland Board for Thursday, September 12th, 2024. In attendance, we have Alan Pilch, Carson Fincham, Chris Phelps, Tim Bishop, David Smith, and our newest member, Isaac Flatto, who just joined literally today and comes to us recommended by the Democratic Town Committee, which was necessary because when you lose somebody of a certain party, you replace somebody of the same party. However, he impressed us very much in the interview, and we are lucky to have him.
Thank you.
And I should go on to say that if he, we have a couple of hearings today that are continued, and in order for him to be able to vote on these applications, he will have to first review all the materials and the last meeting, and then state that for the record when we get to that point of voting on anything.
Sure thing.
Okay, so at any rate, I guess we'll go right to the agenda. We have two public hearings tonight, and so I'm going to have to limit them to about an hour and a half each tonight in order to give equal time to both of these, try to move them along as well as we can. And then we have another matter after that. So it'll be a long evening. Perhaps between the public hearings, we'll take a couple-minute break. So anyway, the first item is IW 24-21, 599 Branchville Road, plenary ruling application per stream crossing and related site work for an accessway driveway with some related drainage work within the upland review area of wetlands and watercourses. Owner Morton Bin, applicant Robert Jewell, who is here this evening. And so I guess he'll pick up where we left off last time. And I would assume start with answering some of the questions that came up last time.
Well,
then, yes,
I will read the documents.
Oh, I apologize, Artie. Thank you.
That's okay. That's
You
okay.
have to first read in the documents received since the last meeting.
Right. So we received Timothy Bishop's resume on August 23rd. We received a revised drainage report submitted by an applicant on September 5th. We had a site plan set, again, a revised one by applicant submitted on September 5th. We had some public correspondence, which was submitted on September 9th. Then we have a response to the potential impacts from shading, which is for by Brian Carey, who is also an applicant's team member, on September 12th. And then again, we have some public correspondence submitted to the office between September 8th and 10th, was uploaded on September 12th.
Thank you. Apologize for rushing ahead.
That's
so,
okay.
Mr. Jewell, your turn.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, staff, council. For the record, my name is Robert Jewell. I'm an attorney licensed to practice in the state of Connecticut, and I'm representing the applicants, Morton and Marisol Bin, the owners of the property. Also here this evening are Peter Romano and Brian Carey, both of Landtech. They are going to be making a presentation. And we also have Seelan Pather, the architect, who will be here just to answer any questions that you may have. Just to clarify a couple of things, of the submissions, both the drainage report and the site plans are revised plans that we revised based on some of the comments from the board members at the last meeting. We wanted to get those in before last weekend so you guys would have a chance to go over those. And we will be going through those in detail. As you know, we are here about 2 weeks ago to give an overview of the project. And you'll recall I spent a significant time at the top of the hearing clarifying the project because there seemed to be a lot of confusion in the public discourse which property was involved and what the application was seeking. Hopefully that lengthy discourse was helpful in providing some context for this application. Tonight we're back and the main speakers will be Peter and Brian. Seelan will be here only to answer questions, but Peter and Brian will be making presentations. I did just want to clarify a couple things. We will be answering some of the questions of the board, including the number of trees and the possible impact of the bridge. I did want to emphasize, and we'll get into it in a little more detail, there was a request that we consider removing the existing pedestrian bridge that was used by the farm vehicles that serviced the animal pens. We were very careful to come up with a plan and submit an application that had no direct disturbance of wetlands and no direct wetlands impacts. As you'll see in our presentation, we don't want to remove that bridge because removing that bridge will be a lot of work. It would be a direct wetlands impact, and we simply did not want to have that kind of application. And we think the benefit of that, removing that pedestrian bridge, is greatly outweighed by the possible harm. In addition to that, we wanted to start, we understand that a couple of the board members did not get a chance to walk the property. And we think in this case, the existing conditions, especially the condition of the wetland that we're planning around, is pivotal to this application. So we're going to start with a tour of the property that either Brian or Peter is going to give you, just so the folks who didn't have a chance to walk the property will be able to see, other than just from a site plan, exactly the conditions that we're talking about. And I think they might be surprised to find that a lot of these areas are lawn. They're not pristine wetlands. And that was related to the operation of the animal sanctuary. And then my final note before I defer to Peter and Brian is that in reading some of the public correspondence, I want to make a couple of things perfectly clear. The Bin Animal Sanctuary was a very clean operation. Animal waste wasn't allowed to fester in the pens when there were animals there. And the animal waste certainly hasn't been left around in the couple of years since the animals were relocated. So there is no animal waste on the property. Honestly, sometimes I don't know where folks get their talking points from, but I wanted to make that very clear. So with that having been said, I want to move on and defer and let Peter take it from here.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Jewell. I have to back up though, because I got
Sure.
a little distracted with our new member having joined and I didn't finish the roll call.
Oh gosh, I'm sorry.
I'm also here, Susan Baker,
I saw
Chair,
you.
and we have Attorney Tom Beecher and staff member Artie Paranjape. Thank you and sorry for the
Well, I think I
detour.
said hello to everybody, even though you didn't introduce them.
Yes, you did. Thank you very
Okay.
much for reminding me.
Thank you.
Okay.
So Peter should be in the audience, as should Brian. If you could elevate them, that would be great.
I'm on.
Okay, we have Peter.
I'm on already. Yep, Brian's sitting right. He's gonna, when he gets on, he's gonna run back to his office. But good evening, everybody. I'm Pete Romano. I'm principal with the Site Civil Environmental Firm out of Westport, Connecticut. Representing the bins this evening. As Bob mentioned, Brian's with me also. He's gonna go through the environmental portion of our presentation. But if it's okay, I'm gonna share the screen with everybody. And we went out, and I know some of the people didn't get out there. I know Mr. Pinchamp didn't get out there, and I don't know, maybe some other people did, but we got some nice drone shots, and then we got some nice stills. So this is a picture as you sort of come in to the property. The house would be, you'll see it more in the stills, but I wanted to emphasize the bridge that's there. So there's the bridge. It continues on, sort of a little cul-de-sac off to the left. If those of you that were out there with me walked it, when we did a whole loop of the property, we kind of ended up at that little cul-de-sac and then walked down this driveway, and the house is over here to the right-hand side. And then the other video we took a bunch of them, but we thought this was the most representative. This video is a shot of about where the bridge is going to go. It's that lawn area right off the driveway. Some of us parked our trucks there. And this is the route where the road would be and end up, crossing the existing water course that's there. I'm going to run you through the pictures and then we'll go through the plans. What we mostly did is incorporated the comments from the last time. I'll do it if people need me to, but I thought I'd pick up and hit the high points of the things Mr. Pilch asked us for, Mr. Finchamp asked for, some of the other commissioners had asked for some specific things. And then I'll take you through, we did a little, sort of a little matrix of the disturbance areas or the intrusion areas based and compared it to the total wetlands and total upland review area. So I'm going to go quickly through this just so you all can see it. Here's a good shot of the culvert that's there. It's just a big circular corrugated metal culvert that's encapsulated. Very nice. It's well done. Stonework is cool. Really did a nice job on it. You know, it's undersized. It would, if we used it, we'd have to widen it and increase the capacity of the pipe, and it's extend the driveway as well. This is a shot from the bulk of the site, looking back at the house. That's Mr. Bin's home. This is approximately the area where the bridge is going to come across. And it's just a picture of the water course. This is from the will end up being, I guess, the north south end of the property, west end of the property, excuse me. Yeah, west end of the property. Looking back towards the house, I'm sorry. I got plans on my desk and the screen up on here, so I'm not good multitask. Just another shot of the water course as it runs through there. You see that it's, you know, it's not a well-defined channel on the water course. You know, and it's got fairly, you know, a robust stone in along the edges of the road as well. Again, another shot of the bridge. Here's a very good shot. Culvert, the brook running through it, kind of thing, and that continues on to the properties, ends up being to our west. So I'm going to go up to the top and run you through this. You've all saw, there's a couple of things you didn't see from the last time that we did. You know, just a nice shot again of the site, overall site for your new commission member. It's about just about 19.9 acres of acreage there. Mr. Bin home is here in the southerly portion of the property. That's going to stay. He's going to use it, you know, periodically. He's pretty much camped out in Virginia now, but he comes up here periodically. So that house, single family residential house, is going to stay intact there. This is very hard to see, but it's the existing conditions map. And this is our latest site plan. And what we've done since the last time we were here, we shrunk the buildings. Ceiling prepared a new footprint for the buildings. They are, they're reduced in size by about 17%. They are 3 stories now, but they reach about the former buildings were about 17,000 square feet footprint. These are 14,000 square feet of footprint. Everything else has stayed the same. We still got the same number of surface parking. I think it was 36 on the surface, and then we have 40 of them inside the building, and the parking is in the back here. This is the overall site plan. We're going to enter through the existing beautiful gates that are there right now. Again, orient you. There's the existing single family house. There's about 1,400 total lineal feet of road, including the driveways to the back parking lots and stuff. And then there's I'll show you the map of the cross section or profile of the bridge in just a minute, but to give you an overview for those particularly that weren't here, this is a 75-foot bridge. It's going to span the brook, the wetlands, and the floodplain. There'll be, you know, typical concrete abutments on either side of the brook outside the limits of all the sensitive areas. There's about 360 square feet of temporary disturbance in and around the wetlands, just to build the thing. You know, you're going to be in close to the wetlands. I don't want to mislead you. There will be some activity adjacent to and in the wetlands when the bulkheads, when the abutments are going to be built. And then once you cross the bridge, the roadway continues on, and you're going to be able to pull into the driveways and into and park underneath. And then if people need to, they'll head around back, and there's surface parking in the back. So reducing the footprint of the buildings allowed us, I know Mr. Pilch wanted us to go back and take a look at a way to reduce the height of the wall. And so here's the new configuration of the wall. We pulled it off the property line because now we're able to, the buildings have not only shrunk, but we moved them to the west. So that now we have more room over here. So now that one wall that ran along the property line is now ranges in height. It's a two-tiered wall, which lessens the visual impact of it. But it ranges in height from 2 feet to 8 feet is all it is now. And makes it a little bit, doesn't look so overpowering with the buildings there. So we also address that on our, I'm going to skip to the other things. I can go back to any of these you want to see, but I think the most helpful exhibit we have tonight is this, that one of our engineers put together here. So this represents, the dark green areas are the existing wetlands, and the the darker wetlands in the center there represents the wetlands themselves. And then the light green areas outside of that are the upland review or regulated areas. And you can see that, you know, with the exception of where the bridge is going, that we are, you know, only with no wetlands in it except for the bridge, like I just said. But there are some intrusions into the upland review areas in the back here. And then we did this, I don't know if it got to your office, but this, if you can see this, I think it's a helpful tool. It just shows the exercise we went through to try to help it, you know, try to keep us out of the wetlands and the regulated areas. So you see in the, underneath the wetlands area, there's no permanent intrusion at all. And there's temporary intrusion into the wetlands. Man, I misspoke, I'm sorry. There's 10,000 square feet of intrusion, temporary intrusion into the wetlands area, predominantly around the bridge. And then we also did the same thing for the watercourse. There's no permanent impact to the watercourse, and that's probably where it got mixed up a little bit. There's 340 square feet of direct impact onto the encroachment in a temporary situation. And similarly, you can see in the upland review areas, which are where the most of the intrusion occurs, it's parking lot. I don't think any buildings are in it. It's the road, but it's the parking lot and the driveways that lead to the parking lots in the back. And that's, you can see the way, so here's where it skirts in over top of the parking lot. Both of those places over there, obviously the road comes through there, and this driveway is in that center area, which wraps around this wetland. You'll see in a few minutes, Brian will describe it to you. This is all heavily vegetated after the development. We planted buffer plantings and indigenous species all around the wetlands. The other thing Brian will touch on also, I know that I know it was Mr. Feinchamp brought up the fact about what is the impact on the shadow that might be created by the bridge. And strangely enough, there are studies on that. And Brian has tracked it down and sort of summarized what the impacts are. But everything else is pretty much stayed the same. Ceiling is going to maybe go through a little bit of it, but it's basically the same thing. It's 40 residential units. They're going to range in size from 1 to 2 bedrooms. There'll be an elevator in there. There'll be amenities in the way of some kind of a rec room kind of thing, or meeting areas in all the buildings and things like that. There'll be some rooftop patios and things that'll be incorporated in there. He's got some of the footprints and things that he may show you when he gets his opportunity to speak. But predominantly, we wanted to show the footprint and what the impacts of the footprints are. And then I think we mentioned the last time we were here, I don't have the exhibit this time. But so I'm sorry, I'm jumping around a little bit. I apologize. You know, the balance of the area that's, you know, remains all undisturbed there to the ends up being to the north there. There'll be an area for the septic system here, and this cleared area here will be an area for the septic system, and some of the drainage is over here. But the rest of it, the balance of it, most of the northwesterly portion from here all the way back to the rear property line is going to remain just as it is, like we saw it that day when we walked it. The trails will be enhanced, but probably all the pens and the little sheds will come down. But, you know, so essentially from the back of the parking lots to the rear property line will remain as it is right now. There'll be no trees taken down on this map also. I know we had a conversation about it at the last meeting, and these red X marks all represent, I think we actually had a plan that showed the actual trees that were coming down. And I'll leave this presentation with you or send it to you electronically. This identifies where all the trees are that are coming down. And these are predominantly for three things, right? The road, some of the building, and the septic system. Otherwise, all those areas that were not going in. And I think it was represented, if you remember looking at where I showed you the bridge, looking towards the east there, all that area remains untouched. So, I mean, the first 1/3 of the property, I'm sorry, here. All this remains the same. The roadway stays the same, landscaping stays the same, the little gazebo stays the same. The whole, you know, from basically the watercourse forward to Branchville Road will remain untouched. The road will be extended, obviously, but other than that, all the physical features remain intact from that area about and out to the roadway. I think I had 4 things that people asked me to take a look at. It was the number of trees that are coming down, do a kind of a little matrix of what the disturbances are based on what the wetlands are, take a look at the wall, and then explore the impacts of the bridge and how the shadow may cast on some of the water that it's crossing over. So I'm happy to answer questions now. I can wait to the end. And then maybe Brian, you can sort of take it from here, if that's okay.
Yep. Good
You want me to
evening.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm going to stop sharing and Brian can grab.
Yep. Hello, good evening. My name is Brian Carey. I'm a professional wetland scientist for Land Tech, and I assisted with putting this plan together. So basically, I just want to go back after our last meeting. We did get some comments we did get some comments from some of the commissioners regarding certain impacts, proposed temporary impacts to the project. And I just wanted to go through and talk about how we were looking to mitigate wetland impacts on the projects. First, as Pete showed, can you see this? I just want to make sure first.
Yes.
Okay. So as Pete showed, we've tried to keep a majority of the work outside of the buffer and what we even called the expanded buffer, areas that are even outside the 100-foot upland review area. Basically, we've minimized as much to the extent possible any work within the 100-foot buffer, other than the road, as Pete said, the bridge crossing, and really that is it. We've taken the septic out of the upland review area to the extent possible. So we feel like we've done our due diligence in coming up with a plan that really minimizes to the greatest extent possible impacts to wetland to the wetlands on the site. That being said, this little area right here, which we're calling a wetland seep, this previously hadn't been flagged as part of I guess previous applications that may have been coming into the town. We did find this during our most recent soil survey of the property. The goal is to really keep this buffer around this pocketed seep intact, and to plant it heavily with a mix of native shade tree, shrubs, and an herbaceous layer that's mostly plugs that will actually be put right directly in the wetland. That 0.02 three temporary area disturbance is actually associated with this planting plan. We've done our best to, well, we've complied with the stormwater requirements for the town of Ridgefield. We've also incorporated an extensive erosion and sediment control plan. That will be, that's been planned, but will also be, updated, and it will be done under using an adaptive management type of program. So if we do see areas on the site that would require additional erosion controls during construction, we will have mechanisms in place to extend those as needed. Let me just go through my notes here a little bit. Again, the bridge design is obviously of the greatest concern because of the nature of crossing the water course. We've done our best to basically free span the brook in a manner that really avoids any direct impacts to the water course. As Pete said, there will be abutments on either side of the water course. I did submit into the record today in response to one of the concerns that was raised by one of the commissioners regarding the free span bridge and the effects of potential shading. I can read this, but it is in the record. Basically, the scientific evidence and literature basically says that on the 70-foot clear span bridge, since it's elevated and it does not impact the hydrology or light penetration or nutrient cycle, that there really would be no impact to Copper Brook based on the free span bridge. I did submit that into the record. It does have scientific sites in there, so you can read that in the record. We've tried to minimize, again, to the greatest extent possible, all the tree removals on the property. You can see that really the only area where trees are actually being removed are where there is direct disturbance, either associated with the building, the road construction, or the construction of the septic systems in these particular areas. We feel that we've revegetated this wetland enough to compensate for the areas where the trees are being removed. Unfortunately, where the trees are being removed, with most of which are outside the upland review area, it's not really feasible to put them back just because it's not good best management practices to be planting large mature trees on top of the septic system or adjacent really to the roadway. That being said, I can go over the planting plan a little bit. Really, this existing wetland it is the one that is closest to all of the disturbance on the site. That's why it was really the focus of our planting plan. Our goal is to, create a riparian buffer around this that will provide, unique and, well, not unique, but it will provide a good thermal buffer as well as a vegetative buffer for stormwater, so that this wetland experience is radiating cooling, which has several benefits. One of them being improved water quality. We have planted this again with a extensive plug planting list. So this will be heavily planted. And we also have developed an invasive species report plan that will be implemented for an extended period of time, and reports will be submitted to the town throughout the project on an annual basis. Well, it depends, quarterly basis and then on an annual basis. So there will be a professional arborist who will oversee that plan throughout the lifespan of that. meaning that, you know, we're not just going to go plant this and die. There will be, if there is mortality, we will go out there and replant areas where trees or shrubs have died, and we will continue to manage any intrusion of invasives. Right now, this area does not have a lot of tree canopy. It's mostly Japanese stiltgrass. So the idea is to remove that cover and then again manage it and replant it, which will be a little bit of an undertaking. That is really most of what we are planning to do. Again, we've minimized all the impacts to the greatest extent possible. That's all I have. I can answer any questions about the plan and then take any questions from the board.
Okay, do we have questions from the board? Comments on the changes? Tim?
I have a few. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Brian and Pete, for that presentation. Couple questions for light here. The 1.21 acres that was on the data table of permanent disturbance and upland review, is that I'm assuming that includes all impervious surfaces?
Yeah, and whatever, I'm sorry, Pete Romano, yes, what, in those permanent disturbance, that is, Tim, pretty much, where the road is and where the parking lot is, that is in that number.
Okay, thank you. And is there any plans to demarcate the wetland areas near the buildings to prevent future encroachment with any type of fence, signage, boulders, anything along those lines?
I don't think we identify, I don't think we called something out, but I always think it's a good idea to do that kind of thing. I'm sorry we didn't. We do have some plants there, but I know what you're talking about, and put some kind of a split rail fence or boulders so that people don't, you know, get the idea they're not supposed to go in that area. So certainly we can incorporate that.
That is good standard practice. I agree with that. I will say this area is going to be pretty steep getting down there, so that will be kind of a physical barrier, but I do agree we can absolutely put in some type of demarcation line. That will also help during the planting to make sure that you know, this is well called out so that the landscapers sometimes have a tendency to cut in areas they're not supposed to. We'll make sure that that is well marked out, and we will update the plans to reflect that.
Thank you. That's all I have for now.
Okay,
All right, so
Alan? You're muted.
That could help.
Yes.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I do appreciate the changes in the design. I think it's especially the removal of that retaining wall, mostly along that property line. I think that's a very good thing. I also see that the driveway, which used to go in front of building number 1, has been removed.
Right.
Which also was in the upland review area. I see that has been removed, and I appreciate that a lot. The one comment I do have is I still think the mitigation planting plan is rather paltry, I hate to say it, and really not very creative. The idea of planting that, I'll call it hydric lawn wetland, which is, you know, sort of in the L, if you will, between buildings 1 and 2, is just planting it with plugs and just putting a ring of few trees and shrubs around the perimeter of it, I think is rather sparse, the term I'll use. And I think the wetland itself could be a lot more diverse, planted with appropriate trees, shrubs, and herbaceous species. And that area within the upland review area, between the graded area in front of building number 1 and between the driveway and the wetland of building number 2 could be a lot more, the term I'll use is robust. And that's something I would really like to see. I think it would be advantageous to do that. And it would help really restore that wetland and would provide, I think, a much more aesthetic feature than just this ring of trees or shrubs, which you presented around the perimeter of that wetland. I guess there's just, I'll put on, that's my landscape architect hat. I'll put on my civil engineer hat. One of the questions I have for you is whether or not there's any concerns that you have, or maybe you could address my concern that the storm trap practice, stormwater management practice, which is to the, I guess that's to the northeast, is that correct? No, it's which direction is north on these plans?
To the left.
To the west. So I guess that's really kind of to the south. But that's the one that's adjacent to the septic system, the leaching. And I guess my concern is the proximity of it. And perhaps this is something that you could address. I'm just concerned that runoff, which is infiltrating through your storm traps, would impact the ability of those
Infiltrators.
You know, the infiltrators are, let's call it that, the leaching system,
Right.
to adequately treat the runoff, because that immediately goes right into the upland review area in a wetland. I guess that's flagged with the letter H's. So that's just a concern of mine. And also just the steep slopes that are being created around there. It's just something I think that needs to be addressed as well.
So you would say, Mr. Pilch, address the proximity of the septic system to the leaching, to the stormwater leaching area.
Yeah, I think that's just a concern of mine.
Okay.
I'll just say it as someone who in my own practice
who did one
does
this
type of design.
Yeah, someone who's done one or two of them in his day.
Yeah, whatever.
Okay.
So that's just something I'd like to see addressed as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Alan, did you state your qualifications at the last meeting, or could you do that now just to be sure it's in the record?
Okay, I guess so. I am a licensed civil engineer in the state of Connecticut, and also a registered landscape architect in the state of Connecticut as well. And I guess I've been in practice now for, I don't say 40 years, but it's got to be something like that. I'm not a young child anymore.
Thank you.
It at that.
Appreciate it. Carson.
Thank you, Susan. For the record, Carson Fincham. I think I stated my qualifications before, but just to keep this more brief, we'll submit my CV on the record after this meeting, just to make sure it's there. I appreciate the applicant's changes as well, and I appreciate them addressing the issue I raised. Just to clarify the record, Mr. Romano was, I think, said that I wasn't there on the site walk. He probably just doesn't remember me, but I was there.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm sorry. I thought you said you weren't there. I'm sorry.
No, I was. That's fine. I just wanted to clarify. And then with respect to the shadowing, I appreciate you gentlemen addressing that. I believe now that we have a cross section of the bridge span and we can see the height, my understanding from the literature is that it's really the height and width ratio that determines what kind of impact it may or may not have. So now that information is on the record, I'll be able to review that and let you know what my feelings are now that you've addressed that. But I appreciate you addressing that.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Questions, comments? Tim?
Yeah, Tim Bishop again. Parking lot. So forgive me for not having two screens to ask this question, but Peter, Brian, if you could please just touch on stormwater management again. I think I asked that question in the last session, but if you could just review that now that I've clarified the roughly acre or more of impervious being added. in and around the wetlands.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So yeah, sure, Tim, Pete Romano. There's a fairly robust storm drainage plan that was submitted that addresses stormwater runoff from the 5, 10, 25, and 50-year storm, and it is collected and it's piped around the building into the infiltration system that Mr. Pelch just mentioned in the front of the building there is, and then it's leached out through, once it reaches capacity there or flows out of there. The overlet is the outlet is a level lip spreader that discharges to the upland review area and eventually into the wetlands on the south side of that. I guess, the south side of the building too, I guess, is over there. And it addresses not only the quantity of the water, but the quality of the water that's getting cleansed before it gets into the wetlands there.
Very good. Thank you.
Alan?
Sorry, just a minor point too. I see where that level spreader is.
Yep.
And one of the concerns I would have, I guess that's a fill slope. And typically, and that's within the upland review area. And I think stabilizing that slope is very important. So it's something that you should consider as part of your landscape plan to make sure that that slope below that level spreader is well stabilized.
I don't think, just an aside, our level lip spreaders have a rim around it of pressure treated wood many times. So that it does have, it's not just a trench with crushed stone in it. I don't recall what got put on the plan for a detail. I didn't do it, but typically, even if we're on a flat surface, we usually wrap it with some kind of pressure treated wood and then fill it in with crushed stone. But we'll take a look at what we can do over there. Maybe pull it back or
Thank
something, get it off the slope.
Can I just one other question while I'm here? Is there any form of, I use the term, pretreatment at all of the runoff that is conveyed? I mean, I'm looking at that fairly large impervious surface to the rear, I guess that's the north side of the buildings. And I know it's conveyed into those, the storm trap. And I'm just wondering if there is some type of provision for it.
There isn't. We're using the infiltrators to provide that.
I guess my concern is that sediment might eventually reduce the overall ability of it to infiltrate into the soil. And is there any access into those chambers, if I may ask?
Yeah, there'll be access
for
points
cleaning purposes.
Yeah, exactly, for cleaning them out. We always put those in there.
Yeah,
I think it's on the detail sheet. I'll take a look at that. It might not be a bad application from, one of the storm scepter type structures before it discharges into the infiltrators.
it's just something to consider as well.
We will.
Thank you.
Anyone else at this time? I just had two questions myself. I had asked last time if any of the wetlands off-site are within 100 feet of any construction activity.
Brian, I heard around the office, we looked at it and there wasn't anything off-site, but Brian can confirm that.
Yeah, no, the answer to that is no.
Okay.
The one spot we looked at, just to clarify, Mrs. Baker, is over on end up being on the westerly property line. We looked off-site there particularly. That looked like it might have been something over there, but it's not.
Thank you. Also, the meadow that you're going to be reclaiming, does it now or will it have standing water during major storm events?
Shallow, the times we've been out there, it did have shallow water. It appears to be fed with a groundwater seep. But it won't be there for enough to create a mosquito type of situation, if that's what the concern would be.
That certainly would be a concern, and also whether any additional runoff that's going to be aimed at that particular spot will not stand there for any length of time.
No.
That's all I had at the moment. If there's nothing else, from
Thank you.
either thank you, from the applicant or members at this time, we can definitely go to the public. So RTO, and in terms of speaking order, what Zoom will do if you raise your hand and you're part of the public is it will organize everything alphabetically by first name. And so we will be going alphabetically by first name regardless of when somebody raised their hands. It's just the way things line up on Zoom. So Artie will
Sure.
recognize people and get started.
So the first hand I see is Taylor Wright, and I'm going to just allow him to.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, we can.
Okay, we've already made it to T, so perhaps that means the list isn't too long of people waiting to speak. But anyway, thank you, everyone. Good evening. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak tonight. I don't know if you can see me or only hear me, so I don't know if my hand gestures will go unappreciated. But I think you probably, my wife and I live at 4 Stony Hill Terrace, which is obviously right here in Ridgefield, right next to the property in question now. And you've likely already read the letter I submitted on Monday, August 19th, on behalf of myself, my wife, and several neighbors of the 599 Branchville Road, most of whose properties directly border that 599 Branchville Road property, regarding the development in question. Those plans have raised some concerns among the signees of the letter about its potential impact on local wetlands immediately outside the boundaries of the 599 Branchville Road property. And so I guess I appreciate that right now we're talking about the bridge development and the specific issue up for discussion tonight, but I think it's difficult to discuss that without considering the larger development project surrounding the proposed, apartment complex and its effects on wetlands contiguous with the property. Because without first allaying those potential concerns, the bridge goes nowhere. But essentially, the assessment of impacts on the wetlands contiguous with the property, we think remains incomplete at this point. As described in a supplemental letter my wife and I submitted just yesterday on the 11th. We're concerned about effects to wetlands immediately contiguous that can result from some of the structures intended to be built for the apartment complex. One specific example being a large septic tank and leach field towards the north-northwest boundary of the property. That's uphill on a fairly steep grade. It's near 2 residential wells, an intermittent stream, and at least one vernal pool that's located just outside that property. And from our measurements, roughly 140 feet away from the boundaries. So the construction impact on the existing hydrology of that wetland, particularly the water table, which is exceptionally shallow right there, is still, we believe, unclear from the plan submitted. Additional considerations being some of the existing, very recent disruptions around the area around Candy's Pond, as described in an earlier meeting, I think by Mr. Jewell, including having clear cut a significant portion of that property at 653 Branchville Road, and that borders the 599 Branchville Road property. That may have already introduced some unknown variables in terms of local hydrology and the area's ability to withstand what appear to be increasing extreme weather conditions that we seem to be getting. I appreciate the plan for the pond's future, but right now it appears to be affecting water drainage in the area. The storm we had a few weeks ago, the absolute downpour, flooded and made impassable a portion of Stony Hill Road, just a few feet from Branchville Road, which admittedly I haven't lived here long, but that's not something I've seen in in the years that I've lived here, even during several periods of very heavy rainfall. So none of us really know the impact of the already underway Candy's Pond project will have on the surrounding hydrology and larger wetland area. So a proposed project of the size and scope we're talking about with this will only further complicate that situation. Just suggesting that some prudence is required in moving forward with the proposed project. ultimately, the wetlands issues for lands contiguous with the property suggest that the Wetlands Board may be justified in considering a larger project surrounding the proposed bridge construction when deciding when and whether to approve the bridge, which is obviously an integral part of the larger project. So, per the concerns above, to sum up, we believe the board to be justified in requesting a comprehensive review of the broader impact of the plan by relevant outside expert consultants to gain a clearer understanding of the effects of the project on wetlands contiguous with the 599 Branchville property. And I suppose the primary request for the issue in question is that should the board ultimately decide to approve the bridge on the condition that no work begin on the bridge until when and if the broader plan is approved by all necessary, approving bodies. So appreciating the broader impact of the proposed project and other very recent developments on these contiguous wetlands is critical and very important to us. So ensuring all necessary approvals are in place before breaking any ground seems to make sense. I do want to say I thank the developers for their attempt to maintain as much of the natural environment as possible. I mean, I believe a legitimate attempt has been made there to salvage at least the wetlands inside the property. And I think ultimately that's everyone's goal. So thank you again, board members, for your time and your attention. And as residents, I know we appreciate you being here and your commitment to upholding the regulations and then safeguarding the interests of all Ridgefield residents. I don't profess to be an expert in many of the topics we're talking about, but I'm happy to try to answer any questions if that's a thing the public can do for this. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your submission.
I have William Molyneux.
Thank you.
Oh, there. Can you hear me?
We can.
Great. All right. William Molyneux, and I'm 2 Stony Hill Terrace. And Taylor, who just spoke, is a neighbor of mine. I did send in some correspondence today to all of you, so I don't know if you've all had a chance to read it or not. But listening to the original Zoom meeting, Robert Jewell and his team did mention that if the bridge was allowed and we were going to move on forward with the apartments, there would be electric and water brought in from Branchville Road underground. So to me, that appears that there would be 2 more crossings of the wetland if we were to bring in electric and water underground. So there would be 2 more submissions to the Inland Wetland Board for crossings. And I do know that if you're putting electric underground and you're putting water underground, they both need to be 3 feet. And if we're digging through Cooper Brook, a 3-foot trench in 2 different spots through Cooper Brook, that could certainly be a lot more disturbance than what's happening with the bridge. And as Taylor had said, I've been here for, 30 years. I've lived here, and I've never, ever seen the water come over across Stony Hill Road. The wetland that is west of Stony Hill Road, east of John's Pond, that inevitably flows through Cooper Brook and is Cooper Brook, that wetland was completely overrun with water, and the water was running over the road, through the woods, and Cooper Brook, which is normally, 10 feet wide and a normal flow, was 30 feet wide. Never ever seen it like that before. This past August storm was devastating for a lot of people in Connecticut, and I just don't want to see that happen here locally. So those are my concerns. Taylor has stated his concerns, and my concerns are also his, but these are additional to what he has stated. The biggest concern I have is that, okay, so we're talking about a possible bridge crossing, but that bridge crossing is then going to allow something further that'll be 2 completely different wetland crossings. So I want to make sure that you guys are all aware of that, which I'm sure you are. And I thank you for your time, and thank you.
Thank you for your comments. RD.
Emily, you can talk.
Hi, everyone. I just unmuted myself. I hope you can hear me.
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So my name is Emily McMillan, and first of all, I want to second the thanks for the opportunity to speak to you that everyone has said this evening. I'm at 4 Stony Hill Terrace. Taylor is my husband. William is my neighbor. And so I really kind of want to focus tonight on the wetland to the north-northwest, which Taylor mentioned. That's mostly what I want to speak about because it's near and dear to my house, but also to my heart. So in the August 22nd meeting, I believe the applicant showed a map, which I think was part of the alternative use packet that contained an incomplete depiction of one offsite wetland system that does not appear to be accounted for in the current plan, and I don't believe is the one that the applicant mentioned this evening as not having an impact. It's incompletely depicted. You can see this because it just seems to be cut off by white space. It doesn't have lines around it. It's off-site, so I'm not surprised that it's incompletely depicted. But it is on a property contiguous and adjacent to an area marked for significant excavation and disturbance, and that would include tree removal and grading and installation of that large septic system and leach field on that north-northwest side. The wetland includes an intermittent water course that goes underneath our driveway in a culvert and runs in between 2 Stony Hill Terrace and one of the houses on Stony Hill Road. And it also contains a vernal pool, and I know that vernal pool is there. I'm not a scientist because I have ears. Every spring it is home to wood frogs, and they are very loud, so loud that they will fool you and you will think it is a flock of ducks. So this wetland pool and stream is providing habitat for nature, but it's also, in a way, providing habitat for the humans who live there because it informs a very important job. And that is it soaks up and it channels and it directs the rainwater that runs off a hillside and it directs it away from the houses in that area. That hillside is the hillside that is going to be disturbed by the construction of the septic system. And these rain events, as William and Taylor have talked about, they've become more and more frequent. So I worry about anything that might impact the hydrology in that area. I worry for my house. I worry for my neighbors' houses. It has flooded and it has done its job, and my house has not flooded. So I don't know what installing that septic system would do short-term and long-term to the hydrology of that area or the ecology. As Taylor might have mentioned, we walked that area with a tape measure this weekend, and yeah, it's there. It really does. That's very unscientific, I understand, but it really does seem to be within that upland review area enough that I really believe it warrants some expert looking at it. And then on a side note, I know that we're just talking about the bridge this evening. Mostly that's what the focus has been. Mentioned and William has mentioned, that bridge is not a bridge to nowhere. It's going to go to this development, but there are, as they say, many a slip twixt the cup and the lip on this project. This is the first stop on this adventure. There's a lot of other things that need to be approved for this project to go forward, and I feel like it's kind of like asking to build a driveway for a house before you know exactly where that house is going to be and how big it's going to be, and even whether you're actually going to build that house at all. So I think that one of the things that was brought up in the letter that we submitted back in August, it does seem that it would be prudent to at least not approve this or bridge construction at this time. But anyway, so just to sum up, there is at least one instance of a wetland pool that I believe is unaccounted for and has not been discussed. I think that accounting for this wetland might change these development plans. There seem to be some unknowns, and I think that further evaluation is warranted. We could consider, I think the town could consider asking for an outside consultant for evaluation. And just because of these and this planning stage nature of the development proposal, there doesn't seem to be an immediate need to approve this bridge and accessway. Thank you all very, very much, and I really appreciate the service that you do the town.
Thank you for your comments. Do we have any others?
Allow Jacqueline, however, William, I'll give you a chance later. Let the other people first talk.
Absolutely.
Jacqueline, you can talk. Jacqueline?
Hello, you're muted if you're speaking.
I'm sorry, I did not raise my hand. I didn't mean to.
Okay, thank you. No problem.
Okay, well,
Sorry, was that William?
Pat, you can talk.
Hello. Can
Hello.
you hear me?
Yes.
Hello, good evening. I don't know why it says Pat. My name is Sarah. So it might be the registration. I'm on a borrowed computer right now. But my name is Sarah Sved. I live on Old Branchville Road. And sorry for the confusion. And we just want to thank you so much for your time tonight and giving us the opportunity to speak, and for all that you do for Ridgefield. Your time certainly does not go unnoticed. I want to echo the neighbors before me in the thoughts that they had shared. You know, the unknowns about looming development in the area leave a lot of question marks for the repercussions of any disturbance to wetlands, no matter where they might be. We have been here for over a decade, and it is very noticeable that the storms and the effects of the storms continue to get worse. August's recent rain event was alarming and scary, and we fully felt the downflow from Branchville Road all the way down to the Florida Road and the Ethan Allen Highway intersections. And so for that reason, knowing that we're down the hill from where everything will be taking place up the hill, we do strongly support the board seeking additional outside information from experts for scope and sequence of potential impacts to the wetlands and the subsequent wetlands surrounding the project, because it's all connected. No matter where a boundary line is on a map, the land is the land, and it all is one space. So with that, thank you very much.
Thank you. Did you give us your address?
327 Old Branchville Road.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Pat, you can talk. Pat Gromley.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, Pat Gormley, 43 Stony Hill Road. I've been in this house 40 years. I'm opposite the land that we're talking about. It's across the street from me, and there's one house between myself and the beginning of the deer fence, I guess you'd call it. Two things. I would request that independent experts also do a repetition of the study that has been done for the landowner. I would like to know that there's independent, disinterested experts verifying and/or challenging what has already been said. That's one request. I think I'm the third person to ask for that tonight. My other question for the developers' representatives is, why has there been a decision to shrink the size of the apartment buildings? It seems like, I think I heard a considerable amount of shrinkage was talked about. From the current plan from the original plan to tonight's plan. So what caused that? What is behind that change? And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Pat.
Ms. Baker, this is Pete Romano. Would you like me to respond to Mrs. Gormley, or?
I'll ask for
We're
your
not gonna-
response to, any of, all of these after we
Okay.
get done, if
Fine.
that's okay.
I have
We're,
only William.
for the record,
Okay.
Robert Toole, we're not going to answer any questions tonight. We're taking copious notes. And
Okay.
we'll have answers at the next meeting.
That
I
would be
just have-
fine.
Yeah, I just have William's hand raised now.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I just had one other question, or maybe two comments, but I didn't bring it up in the first time I spoke. I was wondering if I could see an overlay of sheet L-1.1 and sheet C-1.0. I just want to see the overlay of the topography and the grading that's going to happen with the wetland and the wetland setbacks. An overlay would be nice to be able to see exactly where things are situated into the wetland areas and the wetland setback areas. And the second question I had is probably nobody can answer, is the existing bridge that Mr. Bin has put over the Cooper Brook, was that ever permitted? That is my second question. I hear some chuckles back there. Thank you all
Okay.
for your time.
Thank you.
Will,
it?
sorry, will we be able to see an overlay of sheet 1.1, L 1.1, and C-1.0? Mr. Romano, is that possible to do just rough and quickly, or will we see that in our next meeting?
If it's I mean, I think it's all online. You can look at it, and if it's appropriate, I'll stick one in the mail to you, or send it in an email to you.
I can overlay the two online?
No, you can't overlay. I'm sorry, I misunderstood. You want to overlay the two of them together?
I would like to overlay them, yeah, so I
Yeah.
can see the proximity of the two together.
I'll see what we can do in the office. I mean, it's all on the computer, so we could probably create a third drawing, right? Take the two of them. I misunderstood what you asked. Certainly, we could do that.
Yeah, so that's sheet L-1.1 and sheet
I
C-1.0.
got you. Okay.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I'm gonna allow Luke Erison.
Thank you, everybody. I appreciate you taking the time. Appreciate the time of the board. Appreciate the time all of the professionals have spent on this. I just had a question. I've been scouring the site to bring the plan up. There's something within the plan that has been shown a few times, and I was on my phone and I'm on my computer now, and I tried to bring it up again. But it seems to be that there's a connecting point over to the eastern portion of the property from one of the buildings, and I'm just not clear. I couldn't read annotations on the drawing. Basically from where the septic or where the building kind of lays out, travels off there, and just not quite sure what that is. Maybe somebody could address that, but it seems to be connecting over to the adjacent property. Maybe it's just some annotation that isn't quite worked out.
I can respond if you want, Luke. It's a retaining wall. It's a retaining wall. It's a tiered retaining wall.
Okay. Yeah, again, I'm sorry because I've tried to get on there to get the plans up, and didn't seem to be completely clear from the documentation that I've found.
Gotcha.
Again, I'm sorry, I jumped on here and I didn't announce myself. I'm at 638 Branchville Road. Seen the plans here, and certainly have some concerns being at the bottom of a hill here where I see a lot of some sedimentation, a lot of overrun water courses, and just wanted to voice my concern. Thank you for the time.
Okay.
I have Carrie Jaffe.
Come on, Carrie.
Carrie, you want to talk? Hello, Carrie? I guess he's not there. I don't see any other hand raised, Susan.
Okay. Mr. Jewell, were you going to comment on what you plan to do at the next meeting?
Sure. So we have some questions from the board and we have some questions from the public. So we will put answers to those questions and make any revisions to the plan that we think the board asked for and get those to the board before the next meeting. And then hopefully at that meeting, we'll be able to make some answer any additional questions and hopefully at that point, make our closing comments.
Okay, thank you. Carson?
Thank you, Susan. Yeah, Mr. Jewell, I just didn't, in order to expedite things and not, keep trickling things to you. I just wanted to mention, in my review, there was an alternative presented. I think it was an older one from JFM Engineering. I think that alternative was before there's kind of little wetlands in the middle that's been identified over time, right? So if you could address that as a feasibility as being presented as an alternative, despite the fact that it doesn't take into that account that newer wetlands or that wetlands that was not previously mapped, I appreciate that.
Sure. So the only impact that would have would maybe be the route of the road. It wouldn't impact the layouts of the lots, but we'll run through that at the next meeting as well.
Okay, thank you.
Tim?
Thank you. Also just following up. I share concerns with some of the
Tim, I can't hear you. I'm sorry.
Oh. Good. How about now?
Good, thank you.
There we go. I just wanted to share two of my concerns and thank the public for their comments, two of which I shared. One being concerns with stormwater. My first question to Mr. Romano and Mr. Jewell, if they could include a response with their future comments, future responses regarding stormwater management, and if any consideration was given to design of subsurface stormwater management techniques for a 100-year storm, if they feel that would be applicable in this case, given the amount of impervious surface and the future of climate change, as well as my concern with Mr. and Mrs. Wright, who described a potential vernal pool as certified ecologists, certified environmental professional, and wetlands professional. That I have those concerns with that statement. I don't take the word vernal pool lightly, so I would have those concerns that may or may not exist near this proposed project. My one comment as a professional would be that that determination would not be able to occur this time of year. That would be reserved for January through March, or at least January through May. So that's another concern with that discussion. So I just wanted to come out on the record regarding public comment and appreciate their input. Thank you.
You're muted, Bob.
There we go. So we'll double back and we'll confirm that there's no activity within the upland review area for an alleged vernal pool.
Okay, thank you.
I see Pat Gromley's hand again. Do you, as a public, I'll just allow her to talk. Pat, you can talk. Pat, you can talk. I guess I'll just lower her hand.
Looks like we have a couple others that want to add.
I have again Luke Erickson.
Thank you, Artie. I just went back through the plans on the website, trying to find that area that Pete had mentioned. Thank you very much for addressing that. The new plans will be uploaded to the website or have been. Just curious about that. Again, I hadn't seen it before on the previous plans that were submitted and uploaded onto the website, on that connection of the retaining wall over to the other site. It seems to run into the other property and doesn't terminate prior to it. So just curious about that.
I think you're talking about an existing condition, Peter. Is that he talking about the existing condition near
No,
the
it's a
pond?
no, we modified, I don't know if Luke was on when we started, but we relocated the wall at Mr. Pilch's suggestion. It's a two-tiered wall and it returns on itself. Maybe it's difficult to see on the map, but the lower wall wraps around and ties back in, does not go off-site.
Okay, again, I apologize because I'm working off my phone. I got on my computer late, so.
No, it's a retaining wall, two-tiered wall. It's the highest spot is 8 feet, the shortest spot is 2 feet, and it runs in parallel. And as it gets to the property line, it takes a right-hand turn south and ties into the upper wall. It's right up against the property line, so it's hard to see.
Thank you.
I don't see any hand raised.
Okay, I think we can then plan on continuing to the next meeting. Mr. Jewell, also, we didn't see anything about water or electric getting across the stream. So if that's going to be necessary, it would be a good idea to show us how that was.
Yeah, we'll run
envisioned.
that down, and typically that just runs in the accessway and driveway, and then it would run under the bridge. So I don't think there's any additional crossings that would be absolutely necessary at all for that,
Okay.
but we'll confirm that.
That would be helpful. Thank
Yep.
you.
So the next meeting is
September 26th.
26th, and that is our latest, that's the last meeting before either we have to close the public hearing or get an extension.
we will endeavor to close at that point, but if not, we'll figure it out.
Okay.
As just a housekeeping note, I was going to stick around for the next hearing and then for the acceptance of an application. And just as a reminder, I'll mute myself and whatnot, but if you kick me out of the meeting, I can't get back in. So if you
Yes.
could somehow demote me and not kick me out, that would be awesome.
Well, the next one, you're not on the next one, right?
No, I'm on the one after that.
Right.
Thank you.
Tim, did you have anything? Tim?
I do, thank you. Susan, I would want to ask the board what their feelings are on retaining a professional as a third party. I know we're running short on time. I'm not sure if it's possible, but I just wanted to put that question out there to the other members.
Hold on, who's dead? Anyone else? Want to comment, Alan?
Just a question, Tim, for you. What, is there a specific subject matter you would like that a peer review expert to review?
Yeah, like you said, I don't think a wetlands professional who specializes in vernal pools will be effective at this time of year. So I think my other concern is, as well as the public's, would be related to stormwater management, you know, and flooding. And that's why I brought up the question about the 100-year, which you're qualified to opine on, but I thought maybe we could get a third party to opine on that as well.
Thank you.
Anyone else want to comment on that? We feel comfortable with our current level of expertise, or do we think we need more? And if so, it would have to be really specific. I would agree. It'd have to be, I mean, I don't know what it takes. Right now, you can't confirm or deny a vernal pool. And otherwise, the question in front of us, I would think, would be, are they controlling their stormwater or aren't they? Is the water going to stay on the property or isn't it? Or is it certainly not going to be increasing?
Right, and also whether the proposed stormwater mitigation as currently designed is effective or would have an impact on the wetlands itself.
Correct, because yeah, we did establish that there's nothing except save this vernal pool, which just came up. There's nothing that is within 100 feet of what we're talking about here. There are no other wetlands off-site. So it's more, I would think, from what I'm hearing, a matter of the stormwater.
Right.
And the extent to which that's being taken care of properly.
Right. A vernal pool to me is more of an ecological or wetland impact than stormwater runoff per se. Unless there's runoff from the property, which is physically an impact of vernal pool.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But that
also, typically, the literature suggests 750 feet of area around a vernal pool related to disturbance and impact. So I'm not sure what that distance would be either, if one does exist. But 750 feet is a long way. So I'm not sure where we're talking here, but since they are sensitive and critical habitat, that would be my concern, but we might not have that determination at this time of the year. So again, I just want to put that out there, given the concerns of the public, who we represent, as well as the environment.
I'll just say, that being said, a peer review could review I'll call it a depressed area, whether or not we're able to determine it's a vernal pool or not. But we could at least perhaps identify a depressed area which could potentially have the characteristics of a vernal pool, although obviously we cannot identify it being a vernal pool at this time of the year. I'm just looking for something that would be a depressed area which potentially could hold runoff over a period of time. That's what I'd be looking at. So it is something that a peer reviewer could look at and identify.
I agree. It could, with Alan, it could meet the physical characteristics, just not the obligate wildlife at this point.
Right. Correct.
And for the record, I did present this vernal pool, as some of you saw, last year before the Connecticut Association of Wetland Scientists. So I believe that I'm qualified to discuss the topic.
Okay, well, we could see if we could get someone to review that in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think it's a tight deadline.
It's a very tough deadline.
May or may not be possible. I just want to put it to the board to get their feelings.
Okay.
I see 2 hands raised.
Okay, let's do it quickly because we have another public hearing.
You can talk, Pat McDougall. Sorry, Sarah.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, I appreciate Mr. Bishop's comments about vernal pools. I didn't know a lot about it until I started diving into the world of the vernal pool ecology the last couple of weeks. I'm not an expert, but I'm definitely very interested in that. I do know that there are a lot of those near Weir Farm, and when we're walking in the evening, or I will often walk on Pelham, you hear all of that going into the evening time, and all of that biology and the animals that are there, that matters to the ecosystem. And I guess my question is, if there's no I guess set vernal pool that you can visibly look at the moment right now, where does that stand if there is an expert? I mean, if an expert were to come in, do they gauge it? Are they, guessing from their knowledge? How might that work? And then when would be the best time for an expert to come in to, adequately assess the vernal pool?
Okay, thank you for your comment.
I can answer that. Again, the best time of year when the pool area would meet the definition would be between January and typically April, May, definitely before June. That's by definition the word vernal. Spring and springtime and winter snowmelt. Typically, they don't. While they can last throughout year round, they're typically dried up by June, definitely July. What I would say is, doing this in the town of Fairfield where I work, is an expert could visually look at the area and it could meet the physical characteristics, depression in a woodland, certain size, certain depth, other physical characteristics, water stained leaves, remnants, drift lines, stuff like that. But I would suspect, if it was me, would opine that it meets those characteristics, but without confirming obligate vernal pool species, fairy shrimp, wood frogs, spotted salamanders, at the time of the inspection, that it couldn't be 100% confirmed.
Okay, thank you.
I have a preliminary suggestion, since we have experts on our working on our property. If somebody could point out the location of this depression, we can map it and determine whether or not our activities are within an upland review area of the vernal pool under our regulations. I think that would be a good first step. So if somebody would like to, we can make arrangements for somebody to go inspect that area, and we can plot it on our map and confirm whether or not we are anywhere near it.
If the board so agrees, I would be happy to accompany your team, Bob.
Oh, that'd be great.
Okay, we'll do our, then thank you for the suggestion, and I think it would be very helpful to, since we only have 2 weeks and hiring someone would be pretty difficult, if you could arrange with the homeowner and then Mr. Bishop to go take a look at it together. I think that would be helpful.
If the homeowner doesn't mind sending her contact information to the RD at the zoning office, and then we can have our team contact them, and then hopefully Tim, and arrange a time to get out there.
Okay, thank
I
you.
don't want to make her state that information in the public.
No, of course not. I'm sure that can be arranged. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're literally out of time for the public hearing. We have 2 hands up, people who've already spoken. If there's something really new, otherwise we really do need to move on to our second public hearing.
Right.
Thank you.
Hi, sorry,
Okay.
it's Emily McMillan again. I would only ask, and I thank you all for these comments. I think Mr. Jewell's suggestion is a very good one. I would also think that any evaluation of the vernal pool area would also include wetlands surrounding it. I just want to make sure that I'm clear that that's a valid assumption.
Well, yes, the wetlands have already been determined to not be within 100 feet, which is the rule for wetlands. Vernal pool would be 750 feet. So that's the concern,
I understand.
is the pool. Okay, thank you. Mr. Molyneux, quick comment? Doesn't appear to.
Hello?
Oh, here we go.
Can you hear me?
Okay, yes. Can you make this
it's-
very quick, please?
Yeah, very quickly. Half of that vernal pool happens to be on my property, and I would be more than happy to meet with Mr. Bishop and Mr. Pilch and maybe one of Mr. Jewell's members, and I can show them the area, but I don't want to have a whole corral of people trouncing through my property. So, but Mr. Pilch and Mr. Bishop would certainly be welcome, and one of Mr. Jewell's representatives.
Okay, I think that
And
was the
I think
suggestion.
you might have my contact information because I did send you an email.
Okay,
Okay,
got it. Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, thank you all. So while Artie gets ready for the next one, I think we could take a 3-minute break. Okay, thank you.
This is Kirk Carr, on the record. Thank you for watching.